Welcome back to the channel, everyone, because today we're diving deep into a developing Cowboys storyline that has started to shake up the entire NFC conversation. What began as a season filled with frustration and uncertainty for Dallas has suddenly transformed into one of the most intriguing late-season surges in the league, with Jerry Jones once again taking center stage as the architect of a potential playoff push. Over the last couple of weeks, something has changed inside that Dallas locker room. A spark. A shift. A sense of urgency that hadn't been there earlier in the year. Suddenly, this team looks alive, confident, and dangerous at the exact moment when the NFC race is tightening and every single game carries massive weight. And now, heading into Week 14, the Cowboys find themselves preparing for another heavyweight showdown, but this time, Jerry Jones himself has stepped in with a major update that could reshape the outlook for Thursday's game against the Detroit Lions. When you look back at the last 2 weeks alone, it's clear why Cowboys fans are feeling a surge of hope. 2 weeks ago, Dallas walked into a rivalry matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles, a game many believed would expose the Cowboys' flaws or push them completely out of the playoff picture. Instead, Dallas delivered one of their most complete performances of the year. They didn't just win, they took control of the game physically, emotionally, and tactically. It was the kind of statement victory that reminded everyone that this team still has some fight left. And if that wasn't enough, last week on Thanksgiving Day, in front of a national audience and a fully energized home crowd, the Cowboys shut down Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That wasn't a fluky win, nor was it a sloppy grind out. It was a disciplined, calculated, well-executed performance from start to finish. The defense rose to the moment. The offense capitalized on key drives. The coaching staff had one of their best game-planning efforts of the season. Suddenly, 2 wins later, the tone surrounding this team has completely changed. And now, here they are gearing up for Week 14, a matchup that many analysts believe will be their toughest test yet down the stretch. The Detroit Lions, coached by the fiery and fearless Dan Campbell, have been one of the surprises of the NFL this season. They play with intensity, they play with belief, and they play with a level of physicality that can break weaker teams by halftime. Detroit is not the Lions of old. They're not the team you chalk up as an automatic win. This is a legitimate playoff contender, and for Dallas, this game could determine everything from momentum to postseason seeding to locker room confidence. And that is exactly why all eyes have shifted to one major question this week: will Jadeveon Clowney be available? Clowney has quietly become one of the most important pieces of the Cowboys' defense this season. After the Micah Parsons trade, a move few expected and even fewer understood at the time, the Cowboys desperately needed a disruptive presence who could apply pressure, collapse pockets, and set the tone on defense. Clowney, who has carried the expectations of being a former number 1 overall pick for his entire career, landed in Dallas with something to prove. And since then, he has delivered time and time again. But lately, a hamstring injury has limited him in practice, raising serious doubts about whether he would be ready for this crucial Week 14 matchup. That uncertainty grew over the past few days as he remained limited, never quite pushing himself to full participation. Fans were worried. Coaches were cautious. Analysts were skeptical. And then came Jerry Jones. Jones took center stage, calm, confident, and direct, and revealed the update every Cowboys fan had been waiting for. In his own unmistakable style, he explained that while the week has been challenging and Clowney's recovery has been closely monitored, the expectation is that Clowney will be available for the game. Jerry made it clear that it isn't a guarantee, nothing ever is with soft tissue injuries, but the Cowboys are planning on him playing. And in a week this important, that message carries enormous weight. Jerry's exact words painted a picture of cautious optimism. He noted that while this isn't technically a short week for Dallas, they are running out of days to assess Clowney's readiness. He emphasized that the final decision will come down to pre-game warm-ups, where the medical staff will evaluate how he moves, how he reacts, and whether he feels physically capable of performing at the level needed. But the underlying message was unmistakable. The Cowboys expect Jadeveon Clowney on the field Thursday night. Then Jerry doubled down, not by discussing the injury but by praising Clowney's performance and impact. He highlighted Clowney's 2-sack performance last week, reminding everyone that Clowney's journey began as the top pick in the entire draft, a player whose talent and explosiveness made him one of the most hyped defensive prospects of the last decade. Jerry talked about how Clowney has maintained a high level of play across his entire career and how his recent performances are among the most impressive stretches he's had in years. And those comments weren't just random praise. They were strategic. They signaled confidence, belief, and trust at a time when one of the Cowboys' most important players needed to hear it. Jerry understands the psychology of football, especially when dealing with elite athletes. Clowney isn't just any defensive lineman, he's a player who thrives on momentum and thrives when he feels supported by the organization. And Jerry made sure everyone knew exactly how valuable Clowney has been. Clowney's stats this season tell the story. Through 9 games, he has racked up 27 total tackles, 4 sacks, a fumble recovery, and 3 defended passes. Those numbers don't just fill a stat sheet, they demonstrate versatility, impact, and a level of disruption that goes beyond what shows up in the box score. His ability to command attention on the edge has opened lanes for other pass rushers. His presence has stabilized a defensive unit that faced major questions after the Parsons trade. Every week, he has delivered energy, power, and experience to a team that needed veteran leadership in the front 7. And now, with the Lions on deck, his availability could be the difference between controlling the line of scrimmage and spending the night on their heels. This game is shaping up to be one of the most important of the year, not just in the Cowboys season but in the entire NFC playoff race. A win against Detroit would send a message that Dallas is not just surviving, they're surging. It would mark their 3rd straight victory against top-tier competition and could shift the narrative around their postseason hopes. It would also reinforce the idea that Jerry Jones' aggressive approach this season was justified. The moves he made, the players he brought in, and the risks he took are all beginning to pay off. And Clowney, without question, has been one of his biggest wins. But if Dallas is going to walk out of Detroit with a win, the defense has to be elite. The Lions' offense, with its powerful run game, creative play calling, and tough offensive line, can stress a defense in ways few other teams can. That makes Clowney's presence not just important, it makes him essential. His ability to contain the edge, pressure the quarterback, and disrupt the timing of Detroit's offense could be the key to slowing Dan Campbell's aggressive attack. And the Cowboys know that. The coaches know that. Jerry knows that. Which is why this update, this single statement about Clowney being expected to play, has already started making waves across Cowboys Nation. This matchup will require everything Dallas has: discipline, physicality, smart coaching, and yes, star power. Clowney brings all of that. Whether he plays limited snaps or full workload, his presence changes how the Lions prepare. It changes how they block. It changes what plays they feel comfortable running. And that's why this update is not just news, it's a major storyline that could swing the entire game. So here we are, just days away from kickoff, with a resurgent Cowboys team rolling into Detroit with confidence, momentum, and a roster that might be getting one of its most important defensive weapons back at the perfect moment. This is the type of game that defines seasons. This is the type of game that tests character. And this is the type of game where players like Jadeveon Clowney show their true value. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dive Cowboys updates, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest breaking news.